Who's cool in H-Town? Thank you for tuning in to Fox Files, Cold and Unsolved. That's my show where I highlight the many cold case murders here in Houston, Texas, through my segment of My Beautiful Soul. And then I'll move on over to Dear Sister, a letter to let you know that you are not forgotten. And that highlights the many rapes, murders, kidnappings, and our missing sisters. I'm Cass, H-Town's Army Brat. Let's get at it. I thank you so much for tuning in today to season one, episode 3 of Fox Files, Cold and Unsolved. But thank you for tuning in. I know it's been a while since I have been on here, but it's because I had to handle some business, some personal business that I took care of. It has been completed, successfully completed, so hats off to me. Thank you so much. Way to go, Cass. So, on today's episode, we're going to be speaking on latent fingerprints, latent prints. Those of you who I'm sure know, but if you don't know, the fingerprint are your fingerprints. And if you touch anything, leave anything behind, anything, any kind of surface, your fingerprints are left behind on this said surface. So we must be careful when we do what we do. So I want to know, did you know that the Federal Bureau of Investigation has a Latent Hit of the Year award? And this is awarded annually to an outstanding latent examiner or an police officer who solves a major crime using the IFIS database. And the IFIS database is Integrated Automated Fingerprint Identification System. Say that 5 times fast. I dare you. I can't even say it 1 time fast. Anyway, so the IFIS is this is what the IFIS what they identify. Fingerprints, mug shots, scars, hair colors, over 30 million prints are inside of the database. Criminal, civil, it doesn't matter. The IFIS has you in the system if you have committed any type of crime. And this database, it provides an automated fingerprint search capabilities, latent searches, and like I said, electronic image storage, and other things that it does for in the exchange, like all that it does. All of this runs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So there's not one time that this system is not open for use in the justice system. So it doesn't matter what time you commit the crime, what it is that you do. If your fingerprint, your DNA is left at the scene of this crime, they will locate you. They are working hard to find you. And then this is the killer, because it used to be that you would be able to locate a fingerprint or a suspect or a match, let's say match to this print by just 3 to 4 points on your fingerprint. Now they're able to identify 10 points on one fingerprint that can identify you. That means there is no other way around the fact that this is you. Because with 3 points, you can say, man, that's a smudge, or somebody else, anybody. But with 10 matching points on your finger, and these are the points. These are the points that they are looking for to match you to whatever fingerprint that they're looking for. So that's that. You know what I'm saying? With that. And in 2011, Texas Department of Public Safety's Jill Kincaid and the Houston Police Department Sergeant Jim Ramsey won said Latent of the Year award. And they did so by solving the case of who just so happens to be my beautiful soul for today. So my beautiful soul for today is Miss Diane Maxwell Jackson. Diane Maxwell Jackson. December 1969. Diane Maxwell Jackson, who was a 25-year-old mother, was found in the shack, but was forced behind the shacks, in the shacks behind an abandoned building where she was brutally raped and murdered. Now, the efforts to solve the case back then in 1969 deemed to be impossible. It was hard, like whatever evidence they could find that could lead to some kind of criminal, some kind of suspect, some kind of questioning, answers to our questions, everything was out the door. They couldn't get anything, nothing. So Diane's case, it turns cold. Now, what it does first, it goes unsolved. Once it's unsolved and it's unsolvable, then it turns cold. So poor Miss Diane Maxwell Jackson, who was murdered, she was also a school teacher. I forgot to say that. She was a school teacher, a mother, and she was a young and beautiful woman who very caring, very loving, didn't hurt anybody, didn't want to bring harm to anybody. But this is how she was found: brutally raped and murdered inside of an abandoned building. So time went on, years went on, and it passed. And like I said, she's a cold case now. So now Diane had a little brother. His name was David Maxwell. David was a little kid when Diane was murdered. But him and his big sister had a very close relationship, very loving relationship. He loved his sister loved him. And there was no way around that. So David grows up and eventually he becomes a police officer. Now, if he does this, he does it in so many ways to solve his sister's case, but he also joins the police department to prevent what happened to his sister from happening to other people. So now he's a Texas Ranger. Cool. Texas Rangers, to me, are cool. Have always had cool jobs, you know. My grandma used to watch Walker Texas Ranger, you know what I'm saying? These guys on horses today. So he had a very good, admirable job, career, prominent police officer, had no issues, no bad, reports, nothing like that. So he's a good guy. And just so happens to be good friends with Sergeant Jim Ramsey. Good, right? Right. So one day, while him and Jim are having a conversation, David and Jim are just talking, and no particulars, just conversation in general. And during the conversation, it comes up by David that, hey, 1969, my sister Diane was raped and murdered, and her case still sits cold. Is there anything, that you can do to help me? My father's ill. He's on his last days, I don't say last days, but on his last leg. And we need you to help in any way that you can. So Jim said, you know what? I like you, you're my friend, and this is a great idea, you know what I'm saying? Because she's been sitting cold for 34 years at this time. So of course, we want to take care of this case and get it out and put this beautiful soul to rest, because her soul is not at rest because her case is not solved. She's still trying to put together the pieces of her own existence for the last 34 years when this case takes place. Now, my Houston Chronicle report is from 2003. So this case, and they won the award in 2011. And in cases like this, you don't win a reward the next year. It takes time. So it doesn't give me any definite dates on when this situation happened. Like I said, my Houston Chronicle report that I did my research on dates 2003, and this is when it gives me the case on Diane, not the Latent award. It's the case of how it gets solved. All right. So he's eager to assist his good friend in helping to solve this 34-year-long case. Jim Ramsey does all that he can to locate any and every evidence that he can find for Diane. Anything, any murder box, murder records, documents, photos, any kind of evidence, or her murder box. Her box that you completed back in 1969 of all the evidence collected at her crime scene. Where is this box at? Because Diane has nothing. Everything that has Diane Jackson on it is missing. There's absolutely nothing that Diane that has her case for her case. Nothing. Diane is like pretty much in the wind. In the wind. That beautiful soul is in the wind because nobody took care of her back then, and they didn't take care of her throughout the years. So when Jim Ramsey finds out that, hey, wait a minute, there is no evidence in the evidence locker or the evidence room and in the cold case room, her box is not on the shelf. What's going on? No one knows what's going on. No one has a clue. No one even knows what happened. Like, why did it come up missing? How did it come up missing? Nobody can tell them that. So what they do is they form a task force of officers and people who work at the police department to go and hunt any and everything you can find for Diane Maxwell Jackson's case, her murder case. We need to find what we can find. So they search and search and search and search for months. But then all of a sudden, months later, after they find out she has no evidence in the locker room, and one lone fingerprint, like still, like the little thing, they take the fingerprint, a palm print, partial palm, and a couple of fingerprints. This is what they find in this 1984 archive. So out of everything in the 1969 murder case, the only thing you can find that had been misplaced in the 1984 archive is one lone partial palm and fingerprint that you're saying matches the palm print and fingerprints that is on the hood of Diane's red Mustang. About this red Mustang. This red Mustang was sitting outside on the side of the road for however long it was sitting out there for. Your guess is good as mine because no one can say how long that car had been there. So anybody could have touched that vehicle. Anybody could have laid hands on that vehicle, but since they had evidence, since Jim Ramsey had evidence of a lone handprint on Diane Jackson's car, he tells Diane's brother, David, we have a print. We have a print, but we don't know who this print belongs to because this person has never committed a crime here in the state of Texas. We don't have him in the county of Harris. We don't have him in our database whatsoever. So we don't know who this belongs to. This is what Jim tells David. David was like, oh, whatever, we gotta do what we gotta do because we gotta find out. So that's when Jim calls Jill. No, I'm stepping ahead. Jim calls Debbie Benningfield. I couldn't get a picture of Debbie Benningfield, but he calls Debbie Benningfield. And at that time, Debbie Benningfield was the latent examiner for Harris County. She had only had access to whatever she had access to. She didn't have access to government and federal information. So she had to contact her good friend, Jill Kincaid from the Harris County Department of Justice and told her, well, we have a situation. I have a cold case. We have one long handprint, but we cannot find the person. Can you help? So therefore, Jill Kincaid, she talks to the people at the bureau and is like, look, I need your help. We have fingerprints. We need to help finding out who it belongs to because we don't know who it belongs to. We have a case, we have a fingerprint, we just need a suspect. So the FBI decides to go ahead and use their IFS system. They use the IFS database and worked it, and lo and behold, come back with James Ray Davis. We got us a hit, ladies and gentlemen. James Ray Davis. Now, 34 years later, James Ray Davis is living in Texarkana, Arkansas. That's like Texarkana, Texas, Texarkana, Arkansas. So it's just right there next to each other. So this is where James Ray Davis is living right now. So he gets a knock on his door 34 years later. Now, mind you, James is, I'm gonna say a model citizen. I'm gonna say that, but he has a government apartment. He lives on government assistance. He gets the food stamps, the Medicaid, and the welfare checks and all that stuff. But he hasn't gotten in any trouble in over 30 something years. You know what I'm saying? Over. So when you walk up to my door and you come and tell me, hello, this is Sergeant Jim Ramsey from the Houston Police Department. Of course, I'm gonna look like, well, why is the police from Houston? And I'm in Texarkana, what's going on? But to Jim Ramsey, Jim says that when he told James Davis who he was, the look that James gave of shock and startle was because he'd been caught. Like, uh-oh, they finally caught up with me. But if you think about it, I'm living in Tucson. I've been in Tucson 50 years, 34 years, and then somebody from Alabama come tell me that the police from Alabama knocking on my door. Of course, I'm shocked. But that doesn't mean I'm guilty. But according to Jim Ramsey, that led to him to believe that he was guilty. So, but when you knock on James's door, James, after he gives you the guilt look, he lets you on in. Come on in. What's going on? What can I help you with? They're like, okay, well, we're here talking about a 1969 murder. So he's not, I mean, according to Jim Ramsey, he's getting uncomfortable. But it wasn't until Jim Ramsey tried to hand him the photo of Diane Maxwell's red Mustang to where he was like, I don't want to look. But who's to say that he didn't want to look at the photo because he's guilty? You know, it's a possibility he didn't want to look at the photo because I don't have time for this. But according to Jim Ramsey, it was because he's guilty. So Jim Ramsey said that this man James confessed to the murder, but he blatantly denies the rape. But he does confess to the murder. But evidently, ultimately, they end up letting him go because they're in Texarkana. They don't have the right to arrest him there until they get a warrant. So while they wait for the warrant, they let him go, but they have him under heavy surveillance. He ended up coming back to Houston, getting tried, found guilty for her murder, and sentenced to life. So James Ray Davis had been incarcerated for the murder of Diane Jackson through the help of Jim Ramsey and Jill Kincaid and the IFIS system database. So in hindsight, it does work because it will locate the match to whatever fingerprint or whatever it is that you're looking for. But you have to really ask yourself in this case, did they really get the right person? Because 1984 archives where you found the fingerprint, you know, that print could have, but like they say, that print did match the print on the card. So whatever. Anyway, so that was my beautiful soul, Miss Diane Maxwell Jackson. I chose her case today because I wanted to go ahead and do something positive when it comes to my beautiful soul. All of the other ones that I have done so far is all the other ones that I've done so far were sad and about just trying to find out any information. This case right here had ultimately been solved. So that's why I chose to use Diane today. So that was Diane Jackson. Hope you enjoy. Now it takes me to my dear sister, ... a letter to let you know that you are not forgotten. This story here is a bit controversial. It doesn't deal much with fingerprint and latent examining, but this does divulge into, you'll see. I like I did that. All right, ladies and gents, let's get into it. We have the title of this dear sister ... segment is Army Says Suicide Evidence proves murder. All right. We have Lavinia Lynn Johnson. Lavinia Lynn Johnson, born July 27, 1985, in Florissant, Missouri, to Dr. John and Linda Johnson. She was one of 5 children and loved her family. There were 3 boys and 2 girls, and she was adored by her family, and she adored being part of her family. She loved it so much to when, her father was like, okay, you got to get ready for the college, and I'm going to help pay for the college. And she was like, I'm not going to let you do that, Dad, because I love you and I love my family so much. I want us to all succeed. I want us to all have. I'm not going to give you the burden of paying for my college. I'm going to join the military because I know the Army's going to take care of me. So, of course, reluctant like parents are, like, no, and it's around the wartime, so I'm really like, I don't know. But I have to let you make grown folk decisions because it's a grown folks time in your life. You're 19 years old, 18, 19 years old. So I have to let you make the right decision. It's going on my shirt. Anyway, I got to let you make the right decision. So she chooses to go join the United States Army, which is wonderful. She's a great soldier. She has friends. All of her command is like, she was excellent soldier. We didn't have any issues out of Lavinia. Every assignment she was given to do, she handled the mission without precedence, without issues, without arguing, without anything. She did that. So great. She called home all the time, talked to her family. Her family loved the fact that she was happy. Her mother was excited for her. No issue. She would call them as much as she can, especially when she deployed. She would call them as often as she could. So she calls them like on July 16th, July 17th of 2005, excited because her unit has got their orders. They're about to redeploy back to these states in a couple of months. She should be home in time for Christmas, which was her favorite because she loved to celebrate Christmas with her family. Her and her mama would always decorate the Christmas tree. So she told her mama, do not touch that tree because I'm coming. I'll be home in time for Christmas. Don't touch the tree. You know what I'm saying? Leave it there. I'll be there. And her mom was like, okay, fine. I love you so much. I'll see you when you get here. I'm excited. I cannot wait. And mind you, it's a couple days for her 20th birthday. So she's really excited about life right now. So it's confusing why on the morning of July 19th, 2020, the family, and that's 20, Lord have mercy, July 19th, 2005, 2005, get it out, girl. July 19th, 2005, the family gets a phone call early in the morning telling them that their sweet baby, Lavinia Lynn Johnson, whose birthday was just days away, whose unit was just months from redeploying back to the United States, was found inside of this contractor's tent. And she was found to have committed suicide. So the family is like, no way. There's no way my daughter, my sister, my cousin, my friend committed suicide. I just talked to her a couple days ago, and she was so excited about this, so happy about that, ready to do this. So what are you saying? Well, all I'm saying to you is that your daughter killed herself. We found her inside of a contractor's tent with a bullet hole in her head where she blew her brains out with her M16. Lavinia's family is still at a loss. They cannot believe, first of all, what they're hearing. Secondly, how disingenuous that they're being to the situation. My daughter is in the military. She is in Brat, Iraq. This is where she is stationed, deployed to. She's nowhere near home. She's nowhere where I can come to and get to her. I can't do that. She's here. So what do you mean My baby committed suicide. They weren't trying to hear it. So weeks go by. The family is constantly trying to contact somebody in the military, somebody in the United States Army to explain this stuff. First of all, where is the medical examiner's report? We haven't received anything like that. Where is her body? We haven't received anything. We haven't received nothing. The last thing y'all told me weeks ago was that my daughter committed suicide, and that's all you give me. So then, finally, weeks later, they get the medical examiner's report in the mail, and it states that Lavinia had shot herself with M16. She committed suicide, and that was that. They left it at that. Suicide, closed, left it at that. But again, like I said, her family was not satisfied with that answer, so they did hire their own investigator. That's how they were able to finally get the medical examiner's report. So weeks after that, Lavinia's body is finally shipped back home to the States. And when her body arrives, to their surprise, the soldier who is escorting Lavinia's body to her family, quote, this is a quote, "I was told to tell you to have a closed casket funeral." This is what the soldier tells Lavinia's parents. And in the midst of the parents trying to figure out, what are you talking about? First of all, what do you mean? What are you saying? Closed casket funeral? How does that make sense? I'm not doing that for my baby. What are you talking about? Look, don't bite my head off. Don't shoot the messenger. I was told to tell you closed casket. And that's all I can say. And that was that. But in the middle of him telling them closed casket funeral, I was told to tell you to close the casket, to keep the casket closed. Lavinia's sister goes over there and she opens it up. And the first thing she yells, this is another quote, she screams out, "They murdered my sister." And this statement, 4 words, "they murdered my sister," blew the whole case wide open. And here's why. Because when you look at Lavinia's body, as soon as you open up the casket, it is obvious that her face had been distorted. This is not the face of somebody who just shot themselves. No. But this is this right here. What I'm showing you is what the parents' funeral home was able to do. When the family opened up Lavinia's casket, they seen that Lavinia, her face had been brutally beaten. Her face had evidence that she was brutally beaten, but there were non-life-threatening injuries. Her nose had been broken, but you can look and tell that it had been fixed, some kind of way fixed, post-mortem, and that was done by the military's medical examiner, the Army's medical examiner. They fixed her nose. Okay, she had bruises, she had all on her body, she had scratches on her body, she had busted lips. You know what I'm saying? Her lips were busted. All that was going on with her. That's why they were like closed casket, because they didn't even give her the courtesy to fix her up. They didn't even give her the courtesy of fixing her up before they sent her home to her family. But they're going to tell people closed casket like somebody's a fool. Who is the fool to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and keep the casket closed because the Army says so? No. Nope. So that right there made it and opened up that case, like I said, blew it wide open. But this is here's the kickers, okay? Not only did she have broken nose, bruising, and all that, it appeared that there was some kind of corrosive acid type of liquid poured onto Lavinia's vaginal area. So it had been burnt. Like, if you can kind of see a little bit to her left, side, her right side, I want to say, you can kind of see a little bit of the acid or whatever it could be. Look at that. And that's a gray shirt with a black Army thing on the back of it. And look at it. Soap. Look at it. Mm-hmm. So how did she get corrosive on her vaginal area? That's the question. So Lavinia's family decides to go ahead and get their own their own autopsy done for her because they're not believing anything that is being told. They look at the photos, they look at the evidence, and it's indicated that there was more to the story than meets the eye. The crime scene photos showed bloody drag marks from leading outside of the tent, leading into the tent. Who's, and the evidence on the back of Lavinia's shirt showed that she had been dragged. So she was not killed inside this tent. This is where she was found at. She was located inside of this tent. But all of that information was subsequently left out of the medical examiner's report. So they're not even saying anything about the drag marks. They're not even saying anything about the one long footprint that was found outside. What they're saying is that 5 foot 1 inch tall Lavinia Johnson took her M16 and shot herself in the head with it. Now, a lot of us might not know, not us, a lot of people might not know how big an M16 is, pardon me, or even how heavy an M16 is. But for somebody who is 5 foot and 1 inch long, to be able to sit down on the ground with her hand and this muscle, that does not happen. That cannot happen, But they're saying it's what happened. So somebody even went as far as to saying that maybe she used her toes to pull the trigger. But when found, you can't see it on the photos that I have, but when found, Private Lavinia had her shoes on and they both were tied. So if she shot herself in the head with her toes, how was she able to put her shoes back on and tie her tie? That's one. So this M16, let's go to this M16. The M16 that Lavinia had staged next to her did not have any of her DNA on it. It did not have her fingerprints on it. It did not have anything that suggested Lavinia Johnson touched this weapon. That's number one. Number two, the serial numbers on this M16 didn't match the one she's issued. So what are you saying? You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about? This girl did not shoot herself. This M16 that you see her with right now is not her suicide weapon. It is not. But according to the military, the United States Army, they want you to think that this girl shot herself with this M16. But if you look at this crime scene photo, look at it. There is blood everywhere. Everywhere. How is it that this M16 that is by her had been wiped down? It's not even next to her. There's nothing on it to prove that Lavinia had touched this weapon at all. So how can you say that this is what she used to kill herself with? Make stuff to make sense. Please make it make sense. But that's what the report states. All right. Now, as Lavinia's own parents did, autopsy that they had done for her. Look at this sergeant. Her private autopsy showed that once they were able to open her mouth, Lavinia's beautiful smile had been destroyed because several of her teeth were missing and her tongue was missing. What in the world is going on? So she killed herself, knock her teeth out, take her tongue out, break her own nose, fix her own nose, put her shoes back on, wipe down the gun. Suicide? Suicide? Okay, fine. Whatever. But why is this baby's tongue missing? Here's why her tongue is missing. So when the family gets their own autopsy done, their medical examiner tells Lavinia's family, tells their investigator that from the trajectory of the angle of the bullet to her head on the left side, it came down in an angle. The bullet comes down in an angle, and then it goes through through Lavinia, her jaw, breaks her teeth and lodges into her tongue. Now, there's no at all, not one M16 bullet, nowhere, not inside Lavinia, nowhere around the scene, not in the dirt, not in the tent, not in the mush, not in the grass, not nowhere. There is no M16 bullet, but there is an M16 spun round, not too far from where the M16 was located. But the family's medical examiner indicates that the bullet hole that was in Lavinia's brain, in Lavinia's skull, is not that indicative of a bullet hole from an M16. It is indicative of a bullet hole from a 9mm pistol. So there you have it. Whomever shot this baby, top left of her head, boom. Bullet goes through, boom. Lodges in her tongue, breaks her teeth in the process. So in order for them to get rid of this bullet, they took her tongue because they need to cover up. There go my word, there go my phrase. Cover up this murder. So they did everything they could to cover up this murder, even as far as to go on to say this poor baby who was on her way home to see her family, this poor baby who was excited about her birthday coming up in the next couple of days, this poor baby who was glad to be a United States soldier, committed suicide because some boy that she had been dating for 2 months decides to break up with her, and she can't take it. So she then takes the letters that this guy had wrote her in emails, and she prints out all the emails from the guy. And then she takes said emails and she goes inside the contractor's tent and she lights said emails on fire. And she does all this before she shoots herself in the brain. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? Now, the tent had been set on fire. Lavinia had been set on fire. You can see it right there, that covering, that's what she'd been burnt. She'd been set on fire. There were papers. She'd been lit up. Not lit up, set on fire. But the tent holds zero to little oxygen in it. Zero to little oxygen. So that lets you know right then and there that the person responsible for this cannot be a person who lives in these tents. Lavinia lives in the tents. There are no trailers in Balad, Iraq. There are no tents. No houses for them to live in, and no hotel. She lives in the tent. Contractors live in these tents. Other soldiers live in these tents, so they know it's hot. You can't even breathe in this thing. There's no oxygen in the tent, so therefore the fire could not ignite or stay lit. That's why Lavinia was able to preserve everything that she needed to solve this case. So when asked by the family's investigator, why the family investigator asked the coroner, okay, I'm laying all this out to you, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, X, Y, Z. So why did you put on the medical report, the death certificate, a suicide, when I'm blatantly showing you that this is a clear homicide? The Army's medical examiner says because the criminal investigation division told me it's suicide. He said, okay, well, you know what, you're useless to me. I can't do nothing with you. I need to go over and talk to the CID. So he goes talk to the criminal investigation division and the investigator in charge of the case. And why, when I lay all this out to you, you tell the coroner that it's a suicide? He said, because the coroner said it's a suicide. They're blaming each other. They are blaming each other for covering up. There's my phrase again. covering up the murder of Lavinia Johnson. And it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Lavinia is a young private. She don't nobody know Lavinia. Don't nobody even understand the purpose of this. Who is she? What makes Lavinia so special to where she had to be murdered and then the murder covered up? Because Lavinia was found fully clothed from head to toe, shoes on and tied. But so why? What makes her so special? Let me answer this. That's because, hold on, y'all. Look, that's because here we have, General Kevin Barnes. He was a 4-star general who used his rank in order to travel from the United States to wherever in the military he wanted to go. And he loved to frequent Iraq. He loved to go to Iraq because it was known that he was having an extramarital affair with the female contractor. And if anybody knows anything about the United States Army, extramarital affairs are frowned upon heavily. So he was still sleeping with this lady. He was Article 15, you know what I'm saying? Like, got reprimanded for this and was told directly by who was at that point in time the Joint Chief of Staff for President George W. Bush, General Schumacher. He was in my chain of command when I was in the military. So yeah, I'm familiar with Schumacher. But Schumacher told Kevin Barnes, look, you need to cease and desist whatever inappropriate extramarital situation you got on this lady. It's time to let it go. Time to stop it now. But he didn't want to. So he decides that on this day in July to still travel over there to Iraq. So while he's in the tent or around the tent, thereabout, whatever, doing what it is that he does with his lady friend, Lavinia, who had just come back from hanging out with her friends at another tent, went to the store, got some snacks, some goodies, was over there watching movies and stuff with her friends, was on her way back to her tent. It's said that she comes across the sexual encounter between this general and this lady. And that's where it all unfolded and unraveled for Lavinia. Now, the evidence that is hidden, the evidence that no one is showing, nobody is proving to be, that his footprint, that's his footprint, it matches. So that was his print. His location, he was there on the base at the time. So it was a lot of evidence that leads to him being the one that was responsible for this. And look at her. You can see a better look. Okay, now this is a better look at her. I didn't want to show this one just yet because I didn't want you guys to see who they're saying was responsible. But if you can see, her shoes are tied all the way up, completely up. They're both on. Look at her face on this bottom photo, bruised around her mouth. The bullet hole went in on her left side and lodged into her face like that, you know. So this guy and whoever this female contractor is that he was intertwining with, or this guy, he's the one that is being held responsible for her murder. But since the Army's criminal investigation and the Army's medical examiner deemed this a suicide, they cannot charge him for murder. It doesn't matter what the private sector says right now, because we need to do better. We need to do better. But it doesn't matter what the private sector says it is. The military says our soldier committed suicide, and that's that. Don't ask me no more questions. Don't say nothing about it. He ultimately was fired from the United States Army. Well, not fired, forced retired. Forced retired from the United States Army. So therefore, he does. I don't know if he gets his benefits. I don't know if he gets anything from the forced retirement. But I do know he's still living in freedom. You know, he's in Alabama, living his life, Huntsville, Alabama, living his life. Kevin Barnes, you know, said, do not confront him about the murder. He's a subject to a private citizen's arrest authorized by the Alabama law. So we say, do not confront him about the murder of Private Johnson. He is subject to a private citizen's arrest as authorized by Alabama law. Do not aid or abet his flight from justice. So this man is a retired four-star general who was dismissed from the Army in 2005 and is now wanted for the murder. So he's now wanted for this murder. Okay. And this is a report that comes from a credible resource. I'm not going to disclose my resource, even though he discloses himself anyway. I'm not going to. But just days, a week before her 20th birthday, Miss Lavinia Lynn Johnson was murdered by four-star general Kevin Barnes. And the military covered it up as a suicide when it is known. All of the evidence shows that it is indeed a homicide. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Miss Lavinia, my dear sister, ... This is a letter to let you know that you are not forgotten. We love you. You are missed. You know, your case has not actually been solved because of, you know, the politics of the military. But we're in a new day and age now, sweetheart. This is no longer 2005. This is 2022. We're going to get something done. We're going to make something happen. Kevin Barnes, your days are numbered because you took this beautiful, beautiful young sister from her family, from her friend. You wiped out the chance of her becoming a mother. You wiped out the chance of her becoming a wife. You wiped out the chance of her becoming a grandmother. You wiped out the chance of her becoming a veteran. You wiped her out. Because of what? You didn't want to get caught doing what it is that you were doing. You know, why would you pour corrosive on her vaginal area where you know what I'm saying, trying to get down with her, you know what I mean? So, let me bring it on in, bring it on in, bring it on in. All right, so yeah, that was Dear Sister, ... A letter to let you know that you are not forgotten. My sister, Lavinia Lynn Johnson. All right, y'all. So that takes us to my wrap 'em up, cap 'em up. And today's wrap 'em up, cap 'em up is on Mr. Floyd Shepard Denman. I spoke of him a couple of episodes ago as My Beautiful Soul. He is a cold case that is still pending here in Houston, Texas. As of late, I still have no information on Mr. Floyd Denman, none whatsoever. So if you, my fellow Houstonians, my fellow Americans, my fellow Earthians, you know what I'm saying, have any kind of information on what could have happened to Mr. Floyd Shepard Denman, please contact the Houston Crime Stoppers at 713-222-TIPS or the Houston Cold Case Squad, Houston Police Department Cold Case Squad, 713-308-3618. Or you can also contact Cass, H-Town's Army Brat, through commenting on my YouTube page. I need you to like my video, thumb me up, like my video, subscribe to my channel, please, and then comment and share. You know, I want to get the word out about my beautiful souls. I want to get the word out about Dear Sister, because we need to know what lurks in the shadows. We need to know how to better govern ourselves so we can make sure we hold the right people accountable. All right. So that was my show, Fox Files Cold and Unsolved, Season 1, episode 3. I do hope you all enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next. Stay tuned for next week when we do another video, another dear sister, my beautiful soul, and wrap them up, cap them up. All right, y'all. I'm Cass, H Town's Army Brat. I'll see you.